Who's Pat Tenori to you?
Pat Tenori is now he's one of the best friends in the world, but one of the best humans I've ever come across. That guy's put his whole life into helping people. Like, closest thing to like a fucking angel, like to a lot of people. You know, like he works his life revolves around his business and everything. But he freaking built that company out of his garage, making fucking shirts in his garage. He built Ruka into a freaking multi-million-dollar company, sold it, still the CEO, or still the
running the company.
Still runs the company, still the head voice in what like the direction that everything goes. But I met Pat through Makua when I used to ride for Oakley, and we instantly kind of connected because I was into training jiu-jitsu and boxing and everything, and he was already just like a black belt, and he was always a martial artist freaking since he was young. So he'd like, from the moment I met him, he's like, "Oh, you like to box? I got one of the best guys in the world over here. I'm gonna take you over there." He'd pay for me to go like have private lessons from all these like kickboxing guys and jiu-jitsu guys, and set me up with all this like, and I wasn't even sponsored by him. He's just like open his arms up to me and just became like such a good friend and just like mentor and whatnot. And we're always kind of just friends. And every time I go to California, I'd be like, "Hey Pat, I'm in town." He'd take me to eat like freaking mentalist restaurants ever. And when my Oakley thing was like falling apart, because the whole thing that happened with Oakley is like I started fighting, and I was like trying to market myself as like the first ever professional surfer, professional fighter. Like nobody's ever done that. Nobody's really been a dual sport professional even in surfing really. And so I was like, "Bro, you guys fucking have like a dream marketing thing right here." And they're like, "Nope, we're over it. We don't fucking care. We don't support MMA. We wouldn't even sponsor you anyways if we did, because you're not like a UFC world champion. Like if we were gonna sponsor MMA guys, we'd sponsor freaking, like Randy Couture or whoever was the professional, like a champion." I'm like, "Well, I'm not just a MMA guy. I'm a fucking professional surfer. Like I'm still on the North Shore every year." And they're just like dogging me. And so like they kind of dropped me, and they're like giving me like peanuts, like $1,000 a month or something. So I went from like $200,000 a year to like $1,000 like in like 2 or 3 years. It was crazy.
Yeah.
And
just didn't fit their brand.
Yeah, it just didn't fit their brand, and at the time I was so fucking mad, like
right.
Fuck you guys. And I fucking was holding like super heavy resentment to them, and I kind of do to this day, just the way they did things, because they never really like told me like they're gonna fucking cut me or anything. Just like stop answering my calls. Stop. Right. Yeah, it was super fucking unprofessional. But Pat's just like, "Hey, what's up with Oakley? I want to sponsor you." So I'm like, "Fuck, let's do it." And then just always kind of been like, me and my coach at the time were just like manifesting that for years. He's like,
really?
He's like, "Bruh, why don't you ride for fucking Oakley? Why don't you get sponsored by Ruka? Bruh, you surf, you fight. That's like what Ruka is, bro. What the fuck?" I'm like, "Fuck, I'd love to, bro, but I don't know if they want to do that." Like, and so Pat like offered that to me, and I was just like, "Sign me up."
I'm glad that Pat could see that potential.
Yeah, well, he'd like come here with his family like before he got divorced, and I'd like take them sightseeing, take them to waterfalls, and we were always like super close. But I was sponsored by them, and he didn't want to like interrupt that or whatever.
Yeah, that's respectful.
He just seen like what I was doing at the time, and like then I started doing all the GMO stuff, and he seen like even more marketability. I was putting on these marches with thousands of people all over the fucking state and stuff, and he's like, so he saw he's a fucking visionary, and he saw the marketability. He saw, and I was a friend of his, and he just like, so that's how that all started, and so, ever since it's just been kind of like an amazing relationship.
Why'd you want to get involved in local politics?
Tell you the truth, I was in France. My year I was on tour. I was staying with Laurent Peugeot. And he started showing me I was hurt. I hurt my back. And I was on his floor for like 3-4 days. And he started playing me all these freaking movies. They were like conspiracy movies.
Oh, okay.
So he showed me like Zeitgeist.
Oh yeah, I remember
And that was like when it first came out. He's like, this movie just came out. It's so heavy. It just shows everything that, all the agenda of like the New World Order and all these things or whatever. So I started watching all these movies and just like got tripped out. And I was like, oh, this is crazy. But the one thing that caught my attention in that movie was like the GMO thing, because I've seen GMO stickers here all the time, like GMO free Kauai, and I never really fucking thought anything of it. I'm like, and after I watched that movie, I came home, and then, and then I started like researching GMO. Then I found out like the companies that were on Kauai. I started researching all those companies, like their Wikipedias, and it shows like their histories, where they've been. Basically everywhere they've been sued for like poisoning those communities, and like being sued for poisoning communities. Everybody gets cancer. They move out of that place. They go to the next place. That place got poisoned. They sue them. They're out of that place. And I was just like, okay, well, every company who's on this island has been sued for poisoning communities, and all those companies are here on this fucking island.
Operating with complete carte blanche.
Complete freedom. Spraying right next to schools, right next to houses, like crazy. Like nobody knew what the fuck they're even involved in. And I was just like, holy shit, this is like it was like the light bulb, just like bing. This is fucking crazy. And so I went to this one like rally, and it was like 20 hippies on the side of the road, and me and this girl who I kind of grew up with were there, and we're like talking, we're all holding signs, and I'm like, bruh, where the fuck are all the Hawaiians? Like, this is a fucking Hawaiian issue. Like, there should be local people here like fucking standing up. Like, where they're spraying is all Hawaiians. The west side is like the Hawaiian community. It's like Hawaiian homelands where all Hawaiian people live. And they employ a lot of those people's families, and so they're all like working in the company, spraying the fields, whatever. And it's kind of just been this big like elephant in the room. Like nobody said anything. And so at that point, I'm like, bruh, you know what? I'm fucking gonna do something about this. And so after, I was like pissed when I left that rally. There's 20 fucking hippies, old hippie people. I'm like, this ain't the kind of people I'm gonna freaking work with. I'm gonna get the freaking local people involved.
And they're getting nothing done too.
Yeah, they're not. Well, because people are walking around, go home, you fucking holies, fucking hippies. Like I'm like sitting there like ready to fucking fight. I'm just like, bro, what the fuck? I'm not a fucking holy hippie. Fuck. And so like that year, I went to the Pipe Masters, and I met this guy Kevin, who had like a bunch of money. He made this movie like about Kamehameha schools. They leased all this land to Monsanto on Oahu, North Shore, and so he made this movie, and he met me, and I come to find out who he is, and I'm like, oh yeah, I've been doing this on Kauai, and so we end up hitting it off, and he's like, hey, you think of anything you want to do, I'll fucking financially back it. So I'm like, fuck, you know what? I kind of have an idea that could get like the word out to fucking 1 million people in one day. So I told him, make me this sign. So I had him make me this huge sign, huge banner out of like real material. And it said, Monsanto's GMO foods poisons families. And then I walked in front of the Pipe Masters finals. During the finals, Kelly Slater, freaking all these guys in the finals. And I freaking walked in front of 40,000 people on the beach, me and this little kid. And I think it was a little Ryder. Now he's like killing it, surfing pipe and stuff. But he was like a little kid. And I made him walk with me in front of everybody. Everybody's like, yeah, fuck Monsanto. What's Monsanto? What's GMO? Blah, blah, blah. Like, it was like, and it was right during the finals, and we just like kind of like stole the show. So it showed it on the internet, millions of people in the world seeing it, freaking thousands of people on the beach, and that was like my first like real like, that was like my first real activist moment where I like freaking went out of my comfort zone. Like, fucking, I know so much about these companies. I don't give a fuck. These people are like so fucked up. I'm doing this right now. And from that point on, that March, that was Pipe Masters. March, 3 months later, I put on these events called the March in March. I put on marches, Haleiwa, Kauai, Big Island, Maui, and Molokai. And everyone had, I call it the March in March. And it was freaking, Haleiwa had like 1,000 people. Kauai had like over 2,000 people in the pouring rain. Big Island had like 1,000 people in Little Hilo Town marching. Then Maui had like 2,000 people. And then Molokai had like 500 people, like the smallest place ever. And it's all GMO over there. The whole Molokai. Like this whole town, all around all the schools is all cornfields.
What was your ambition with the marches?
Just to raise awareness and basically activate the whole freaking state of Hawaii to like understand what's going on.
It made big waves. Like me in Southern California, I was immediately aware of all of that stuff. And I had never heard of, I knew what a GMO was, but I had never heard of Monsanto before as a company. Did they ever reach out? When did you start getting blowback?
I had a lot of like articles written about me, like people like just shills in all my posts, everything, just trying to like discredit what I'm saying. I had freaking people writing articles and like all over newspapers, whatever, writing about me, like saying I'm this and that, I'm an idiot, I don't know what I'm talking about, I didn't graduate from high school, I don't know anything, blah, 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 blah. But I actually did like fucking 2 years of hard research before I even did anything, like reading all the time about all these companies and like really did like hard-nosed freaking research. The pros and the cons of GMO, both sides of the spectrum, did my own common sense of fucking right and wrong, looked at their history, where they've been, and that's what really like caught my attention. And it wasn't even like the food thing. Like I know why the food is bad. It's because like a lot of that corn is like Roundup Ready corn, all this stuff where like in the genes of the plants is actually the poison to fight off the bugs. So if the bugs eat the plant, they die. So it's like I understood why I'm not eating the food.
It's got poison to poison the bugs, but then we're putting it in our bodies in these tiny doses over the course of our entire life.
Yeah, it's like if it kills a bug in one bite, like throughout our lives, it's a building accumulation of like a cancerous substance, basically.
We know that people are dying of cancer at record rates, and there's no known cause, and we know that this is happening on the other end.
Exactly.
So you can connect the dots.
There's never been a cluster of cancer like there has been since this kind of food was brought in secretly into our food sources, and nobody really knew that there's little things that were in all our food, from our chips to our candies to everything, that was coming from these companies.
Well, corn is in everything. Everything.
Yeah.
So
one way or the other.
It's crazy. And they're genetically modifying.
Well, not just corn, but it's the corn, the soy, the beet, all these things that they're GMOing are secretly put in some way. They're using them some way in almost every product in the world.
Right.
Not even in the world, in the country.
And not just edibles, but in your plastics and everything.
Totally.
So they're genetically modifying the seeds, then patenting the seeds.
Yep.
And then the farmers are forced basically to use the seeds.
So they're going to farms where people have no GMO. They're going over there and going with their pollen, come back in a few months, testing their crops and being like, you have infringed on our patent. And then threatening them, either taking their farms, suing them, or making them farm GMO instead of natural corn.
Right. Go ahead and start using our seeds, and we'll charge you.
Yeah. And so basically, these seeds would not reproduce. Like, farmers always collected seeds for their next harvest. These seeds, you had to buy the next. So it was like this monopoly where they fucking put the farmers in, like, basically a corner and said, this is how you have to do it, or else, even if you don't want to do it like this, we're going to make you do it like this one way or the other.
Right.
Blow some pollen in your corn. Oh, you're infringing on our patent. You don't even have a contract with us. We're suing you for everything you own.
Yeah.
It's like craziest. It's the craziest thing ever. And they did it in Australia. They've done it all over. So, anyways, the thing that, like, the food thing was, it's you know, it's an argument. There's always a debate. There's no debate with poison. There's no good poison. So what I did strategically is I focused the attention away from food and onto poison. So, like, when I started going to these, like, group meetings, there were, like, all these nonprofits and in Hawaii that were, like, trying to do something about this but never did. They were always, like, getting money from people to try to, like, combat this, but they never could get, like, a tidal wave effect like I did. And so when I came in and created all these marches and everything, it kind of, like, boosted I worked with them and I put them all on my banners and I piggybacked them into basically being the faces of the movement as far as, like, nonprofits go. So when people are like, wow, this is fucked up, who do we help, how can we help? So they're, like, giving these nonprofits money, and they started making a lot of money. So anyways, put on the marches. We end up getting a bill written over here called 2491, and it's basically demanding that they have an environmental impact statement, that they transparent with what poisons they're spraying and what they're testing here, and then buffer zones. That was the three main things in this to protect our island. They fought tooth and nail, frickin' buying out politicians, taking them out to lunch, talking them into it. A lot of these guys were family of people who work for the companies. And so, like, the girl that I did everything with, this girl Fern, she was friends with one of the politicians, his son, and she knew him. It's her Uncle Gary. And so he helped her write the bill and he introduced it. And so in that bill, we introduced it and then we pushed it with everybody who were at our marches. We had thousands of people backing this bill. So it turned into this war over here on this island of basically people for or against poisoning our island. And so what this company did strategically is they had like they're like a team of all the companies, and they like have freaking marketing geniuses come in and they say, let's divide and conquer this freaking island. We're gonna go, because they're all Hawaiians over there, so they're gonna say, oh, look at all these people who are for this bill are all rich haole people from the North Shore. And look, they're wearing red. Because North Shore, like in soccer on Kauai, the North Shore's red and the West Side's blue. So it's like almost like a Bloods versus Crips thing. And they made it into this like Bloods versus Crips, white versus brown thing. And it really like worked for them kind of in a way. Even though it didn't like really. Because we had thousands of people, and majority of those people are local people with us. But what they did to all the workers is and the people from the West Side, they said, look, and they'd show them pictures of like one haole person, like when the kind of people I seen on the road that day.
Yeah.
He said, look at who's doing this. It's rich white people from the North Shore trying to kick Hawaiians out of their lifestyle. This is the plantation lifestyle. It's been this way for freaking hundreds of years. Look at, we all wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for plantations. And they want to kill that lifestyle, make it all freaking Princeville. They want to make everywhere Princeville. And that's how they like turned all their workers and everything against So then they'd go and we'd have these meetings where people would testify. There'd be hundreds of people to testify, hundreds from this side, and all the workers would be paid from the companies their daily wages to come testify. So everybody would be wearing, like, I made the shirts with the red and yellow, like it's like a li'i Hawaiian colors. Like the kings would wear like their capes and everything would be like this red with the yellow gold feathers. And so I made those colors because of that reason, because it's like strong colors for Hawaii. So they took it and they flipped it and they said, look, it's like North Shore red, we're blue. So I made blue shirts with like protect your local farmers and shit. So they twisted it so hard. And so we'd be like, freaking at these meetings, like guys almost scrapping outside, like fuck you, like. And yeah, it was crazy. It was like the gnarliest divide and conquer ever on the island. So then they had this last final meeting. It was all day from 8 in the morning till 2 in the morning, people testifying. Like thousands of people testifying from both sides. They're going and picking up all the convicts that were just out of jail, paying all these drug addicts all along the roads, everything, for come in their vans and to testify for them. It was crazy.
It's insane.
So like people we knew who just got out of jail were like, bro, they paid me to be here. And like people like drug addicts right off the street just like, oh, I got paid fucking $50 to come here today. Crazy. I get high. Yeah, it was just crazy. So yeah, it was crazy. But we always had more people, but they had like strategically had people who were like related to the guys in the county council and shit. So then finally after that meeting, they're like, oh, we gotta freaking prolong this. We still can't make up our minds. And we had like 1,000 people. They had like 500 or something. You know, like it was crazy. Like we always had more people. So then we're like, what the fuck? I put on this march again. I put on a march like 2 weeks later. I'm like, Mana March, we called it. And we freaking marched the whole road in Lihue from right by the airport up to the county council building. 4,000 plus people surrounded the freaking building chanting, pass the bill. And crazy event. And I always like strategically put on my events with like well-respected local people that were like really good speakers, really like gnarly motivational speakers, and freaking good bands and freaking good food. Like I'd freaking cook food for 2 days to feed everybody, and like I always did it right. And so that's why our events were so successful. Like I always had like people who like, oh, that guy's speaking, we want to go, you know. Yeah. Like so strategically I always put my events together like that. And it's a form of warfare, you know, like you got to be strategic how to like get people together and how to freaking pull. So I always kind of like had that ideology on how to like that strategy on how to like really make events. So that event I had like sick bands. I had right on the stairs of the county council building, I had like sickest like music, speakers, 4,000+ people, like the whole freaking Lihue is just full of people. It's crazy. We stretched the line like all the way to like a mile long line, and all the way, and people were still like hundreds of people still, maybe even 1,000 people still not even out of the park where we started. Like
crazy.
Yeah, the whole race street was full of red all the way up the road. It was like the pictures are crazy. And so that event happened and they ended up passing the bill. But what happened in the middle of all the freaking meetings is one of the county council members who used to be the mayor, this lady Joan Yukimura, she went in the back room with the lawyers from that company, and she made amendments in the freaking bill that would make it illegal for them to govern certain things at a county level. So she threw stuff or took stuff out that took away the legalities of us like being able to like push that bill. So what happened was they passed the bill, the mayor vetoed the bill, and then the county council overrode it. So then it went into court. So at that time, all that was going on, and then the mayor run was coming up, and I never thought about running for mayor ever. And somehow I was in Lihue with my kid in town, and I was doing something at the DMV, and I seen all these GMO guys with like the lawyer of the county and all these guys. I'm like, bro, what the fuck's going on over here? I had my son with me. I'm like, get over here, freaking pull him with me. We go, I follow the guys, and they go to the county council yard, and the guy, the mayor Carvalho, who I went against, was making his announcement that he's running for mayor again. And I looked behind him, all the guys holding his signs is all the bosses for all the GMO companies. And I was like, I couldn't even contain myself. I'm all, what the fuck? And bro, the music just stopped, and everybody just went shoop and looked at me. I was just like, look at all you corrupt piece of shit. Look at you. All the guys suing you right now. That's all the guys backing you up? What the fuck is this? Like, the guy's like, what do you mean? We are native Hawaiian. I'm a native Hawaiian. I told him, bruh, you're a fucking sellout. I just freaking snapped. I told him, I'm like, bruh, you know what? Fuck this. I'm running for mayor already. Fuck you. Fucking. I like walked away, grabbed my son. We're freaking out of here. Fuck. Just like walked away, like snapping. And like blew their whole like party pretty much. And like, I like got on the phone with my friend Fern. I'm like, what does it take to run for mayor? It's like, fuck, I think you only have to be over 29 years old and be American citizen. I'm like, fucking sign me up.
I mean, you had to feel so when that bill gets passed, but they create all these loopholes in it.
Yeah, they're
you have
suing.
To be
they're suing the county. And so the mayor of that county,
they being the GMO,
the chemical corporations who do GMO. So I knew all the bosses from the meetings.
Right.
And I show up there, and they're all his number one supporters. They're the same people who are suing him are his number one supporters. Right. And I just seen like the corruption. I'm just like, bro, this is the most corrupt. I told him, this is the most corrupt shit I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, it's what you've seen, but this is how it works. This is the way that all of politics
and
work.
I never knew that, like I never
all the
really
way to Capitol Hill.
I never really got like that involved in politics. Like
me neither.
I'd like write in on certain things that I thought were messed up, like since I was young, and I voted since I was young because my mom like made me. But now I'm like, now I know the depths of politics. You know what I mean? I know how fucking corrupt it is. I know how it works. I know how lobbyists works. Because for years I got so involved in politics, going to the state building in Oahu, freaking going to all these meetings, trying to pass bills, and looking at all the lobbyists, taking these guys out to lunch. Bruh, speaking freaking moms crying about their kids being poisoned, these guys just rolling their eyes. Like, I've never seen like such crazy corruption, and it just works at all levels to like basically anything in Hawaii that's against, even the whole country, but anything that's against like a corporate entity's agenda, you know what I mean? So people like, now we're fighting for Mauna Kea. Yeah, we've been in this huge war for Mauna Kea, and like I was arrested up there 5 or 6 years ago with the first arrest ever, and like we flew over to protect the mountain. But ever since then, it's just been like the craziest corruption just presenting itself over and over and over. Like the correlations and connections of like the corruption inside the government and who's being paid off, and it's all coming out, and they're all getting in trouble for it.
Kind of.
And
I mean, at the top levels, it's still absolutely happening,
Yeah, like, but our governor was just caught, like, basically funneling money from the TMT, the 30-meter telescope, millions of dollars through, basically laundering money through these real estate company. He was buying a company, and then they're instantly turning that over and putting his money into something else. So it was like a 3-part funnel of his money, and he just got busted for that. So like
last week, Arthur Brune thing.
Yeah, Arthur Brune. I told that guy was one of the main workers for Syngenta.
No
and he was,
way.
Yeah, he was always a drug dealer for 20 years. He was a meth dealer. And I know that because I know all the freaking gangsters on this island. Like, I'm good friends with a lot of like heavy people, and I've always known about the guy. And then when the GMO thing started, my friends were, bruh, the main guy's the main meth dealer. He feeds like all the workers freaking ice.
Right.
Like all the workers in the fields are smoking ice and working all day.
Yeah.
And we all knew that. And then the guy ran for mayor, and I'm like exposing him, writing all over social media, like, yeah, you guys vote for Brune, vote for your local meth dealer. And people are like writing me like, you're a piece of shit. How could you? Oh, just because he works for the GMO companies, you want to discredit him? Oh, bruh, you people are fucking crazy. They're like, he went to rehab, this and that. I'm all, I don't care. He still sells ice.
And for the listeners, last week he was arrested and he's being indicted. So.
He was arrested with a huge ring. He's the main ice dealer on the west side of the island. With pounds and pounds and pounds of meth.
Mountains of evidence.
Yeah, mountains of evidence. And it's been going on. And he's a county council member.
Right. That's the detail. So you're looking at it. Bring me through the bid for mayor. Because part of me recognizes, I don't know, do you even feel like you could change anything? Even if you're the mayor, you're then just subject to a bunch of other higher ups above you.
Yeah, like, I mean, now that the thing I want to do was basically, I was so like educated on like Hawaiian rights and all these things, like I was explaining earlier, to where I was going to go in and ask the real questions. Do we really have jurisdiction? Can you guys prove that, like, at a highest level on our island, I could say that and say, I want our judges over here to prove to everybody on Kauai that we have jurisdiction as a county, as a state, over anybody born and raised in Hawaii, because basically anybody born and raised in Hawaii is a Hawaiian national by law. And it's always been like that from the kingdom till now. And so there's people actually in county councils now that are doing that on some of the islands, and they're asking those questions, and they're getting like, they're basically exposing the illegalities of the county and states. So I had that plan actually to do these kind of things. I had things that I want to do as a mayor that I could have like made the island better, like putting money into like things that, like, I wanted to focus more on like ecotourism and culture instead of like what tourism is now, and revolving tourism more around the culture and education and of course like fixing the roads and all that shit.
Yeah.
But that wasn't my main talking points, like, and that's where people were like, oh, we don't care about that, we want you to fix the roads. And I'm like, that's like, of course we're going to fix the roads, that's like part of what the county does, but these are the bigger pictures. So those were some of the things like I was talking about, and like protecting our waterways and making our waterways run freely again, and like certain things, because like there's such big issues here with water, with land, with culture being like ran over by development, water being stolen by like power companies and the GMO companies like redirecting rivers and like leaving miles of river like dry and killing like ecosystems basically.
Your bid for mayor was unsuccessful.
It was, but I got like 38% of the votes or something, so it wasn't like that.
What did the winner get?
It was like 60
Oh, the balance of that?
Yeah, the balance. It was me versus him at the end.
Got it.
Because we were the top two. Like, there's 4 people running. After the first votes, everybody got out, and then me and him battled for like a couple more months or whatever.
Gotcha.
And so we'd just freaking go to all these like debates basically, and I'd freaking kill him at the debates. Kill him. Make him look like an idiot.
Yeah.
And like, we had the biggest voter registry. We had the biggest count of registered voters in the history of the island that year. And either it's extremely corrupted, the electric balloting system, or I freaking lost. But we had more voters and like in large numbers than there's ever been in the history of this island, by like large numbers.
Good.
And so like, yeah,
it activated the community.
Yeah, it activated everybody, it educated everybody. It like, I didn't really think I was gonna win. Like, when I initially did it, I didn't do it to win. I did it to freaking shake these guys up and basically put fear in them and like be able to like fuck with them on the public level and be like, basically like expose the corruption at all these meetings, and I did that. But throughout that, I got so into it that I actually thought I was gonna win, and so I'm so competitive that I'm like, fucking, I put like everything into it. Like I didn't have a big like campaign, as far as like people helping, and I freaking knocked on thousands of doors by myself, all the way to the west side where people said they're gonna kill me if I came to their house. I'd go right to their house and knock on their door, be like, hey, hello, just like kill them with kindness. By the end, they're like, bruh, I might not vote for you, but I respect you. You know what I mean? And so like went way out of my comfort zones. I'd be in my car like, bruh, are you really gonna fucking go out in this town right now? Like people said they're gonna fucking kill you. I'm like, bruh, you fucking pussy. Get out of your car and just fucking
Crazy.
go.
How did you fund the campaign?
I had like a good amount of money given to me,
From
but
who?
all my money went into like just from random people. And
You set up like a donation platform?
yeah.
Okay.
Like, so we set up a donation thing, and like we had a good amount of money. I don't know how much it was, but like 60 grand or maybe more, maybe 100 grand. I don't know. Maybe not 100 grand. I think we had maybe like 50 or 60 or something. But all that went into marketing, ads, fucking stickers, banners, all the freaking little shit. Freaking, yeah, basically it all went into marketing. Like everything I did, I didn't pay any of that money into my gas for driving. I didn't pay any of that money into my food. Like everything went into like marketing, and like any events we had, we paid for with that money. So I didn't even touch the money. One of my friends was the
Accountant? Or
yeah,
bookkeeper? Or whatever?
bookkeeper. Another girl was the like campaign manager, and it was me. It was three of us, and that's all we had helping. It was pretty crazy. And these guys had like hundreds of thousands of dollars, like 50 people going house to house.
Backed by chemical companies.
Yeah, backed by chemical companies. Yeah, it's crazy.
So the real question is, do you think these issues that you've just talked about that are facing Kauai, do you think politicians can even solve them? Is politics the answer to solve these things?
I used to think that, but now I think grassroots education and like togetherness is the way to deal with things, like what's happening at Mauna Kea. Like Mauna Kea has been saved from that telescope, and it's not just being saved from a telescope. Mauna Kea has 50 years of mismanagement on the mountain by all the telescopes. That's been, if anybody ever goes on YouTube and looks up 50 years of mismanagement of Mauna Kea, they'll see why we're fighting for that mountain. Not only is that the sacred mountain to Hawaiian people, they came from that mountain. Their origins come from that mountain. In the world, Mauna Kea is the highest mountain on the planet, from the ocean floor to the top of the mountain. So these are little things, but what people don't know is under Mauna Kea is one of the biggest aquifers in the world, which feeds the whole island's water, basically. And these telescopes are having like nuclear waste spills, all this kind of like chemical spills, like their freaking toilets, everything spilling out, and it's always being hushed up, and nobody ever talks about it because it just kind of like within that community up there on the mountain. And so people have come out and say what happened when they were working there eventually, and like there's been crazy like chemical spills up there and everything, and they just like push it all into the mountain, and like it never happened. And so what that mountain is a water catchment for all that water. And so the part where they want to build is the last like clean peak, and it's the last plateau that hasn't been touched up there, and that plateau is really sacred to the Hawaiian people. But for me, the water is one of the most important things that most people can relate to, because by digging that deep into that mountain, they can't guarantee that they're going to fuck up the catchment system and how the water like goes into that aquifer, and how their chemicals are going to be kept from going into the aquifer, and all these other things. There's no guarantees, you know. So like for me, I understand the spiritual side of Hawaiian people and their fight for why they're standing up for the mountain, but I also understand the other side that nobody really talks about, and that's the water. And that's, you know, that's like, for me, that's something that you can like, more people can relate to, like protecting the water source of the whole island.
Yeah.
The spiritual thing, like not everybody's spiritual, and people who believe in science usually aren't. They believe in science, they don't believe in spirituality, majority of them.
Right.
Because the science world doesn't believe in spirituality. They believe that everything came from space and the big boom, and freaking there's no God. There's just, you know, so with Hawaiians, they believe in a lot of gods and how they were created, and they understand their oral history and where they come from, and their mo'olelo, which is their historical story. And so they know who they are and where they came from, and they know who their gods are and who created them and what they did and all these things. And they, even though some of them might be Christian or Jehovah's Witness or another religion, once they get involved in their language and understanding their history, they understand what part these gods or entities played in their history.
Right.
So they all stand up for this in their culture and why the mountain's so sacred.
Totally.
So what Mauna Kea has shown us is how community and togetherness and education really can move mountains and can block mountains and can save mountains and can like keep away those billion-dollar entities if we just stand together, and we stand not in violence but in like peaceful protest.
Right.
You know? And to me, that's always been kind of my motto, and all my marches and everything has been like holding ourselves accountable for everybody. Like everybody in this march, I tell them in the beginning, represents everybody in the march. If you do something stupid, or she does something stupid, or you do something, that's the one thing they're looking for, to make us all look bad. So we all need to be held at the highest level of respect and the highest level of humility in everything we do.
Yeah.
And that's where this whole like, and I was doing that back then, but now to see it at this level at Mauna Kea is like amazing.
Good.
And to be there through every single time that there's ever been a stand there,
Yeah.
for me has been like life changing. Like
Good.
anybody who goes there and hangs with the people and learns like part of that culture and the humility and the aloha that's up there, will like, it's a life changing experience for
Right.
anybody. Yeah, it's crazy. Like,
Do you feel like that fight against the local GMOs on Kauai is lost?
no, because it's like a lot of those companies have left.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like there was 5 of the biggest companies in the world other than Monsanto. Monsanto was the first one here, and then they moved to Oahu. But we had Syngenta, Dow, DuPont Pioneer, and BASF. BASF is the company with Bayer, who ran the concentration camp at Auschwitz. Those are the 2 companies that Auschwitz was a slave labor camp building 2 huge factories for Bayer and BASF. And they're testing chemicals and medicine and all this shit on the people.
Right.
So when you understand the history of these companies, and I'm like, okay, so we have fucking Nazi companies who did experiments on people, and they're doing their experiments here. But so what I forgot to leave out is everything going on this island with GMO is all experimental.
Right.
It's not farming like they do in the Midwest with like big corn. It's all experimental seed crops here, where they're growing the seed, testing it, seeing how the chemicals react with each other, testing new chemicals that they're creating. All that is what's going on in Kauai. It's
And
not
potentially poisoning the land.
guaranteed
They're
poisoning the
doing
land. Yeah, that's why they didn't want to do environmental impact statements.
Right.
So the communities around those fields are being exposed to like the highest quantities of they're being exposed to 15 times more chemicals, like not just chemicals, but there's regular pesticides and there's RUP, restricted use pesticides. So on Kauai, they're spraying 15 times more restricted use pesticides than anywhere else in the country or even the world, I think. And so that's because like that's per acre, and they're not using all the acres, but majority of their acres are around the communities, around the schools, around, not really anymore. They've moved a little bit back, but what we were fighting for was buffer zones around the communities and schools. And you see, like, this is light wind. Yeah, you can see it outside. This is like a 15 maybe mile per hour trade wind or whatever. Majority of the days here are like a 15 to 40 mile per hour gusts, trade winds. So if people are spraying, even if it's 100 yards, if it's however far, if you go to the west side across the river from say like DuPont Pioneer, DuPont, all their houses have red dirt all over them that comes from across the river because it's high up, and it flies down and covers everybody's houses, red dirt. So if you come to my friend's house, he lives right across the river from DuPont, right on the side of his house, your whole finger will be like this thick of dirt. That dirt comes from the field where they're spraying these restricted use pesticides that are freaking extremely poisonous. So everybody in the community's houses are being lathered in red dirt that's covered in cancerous pesticides. Majority of it, they're using a lot of Roundup. They're using paraquat. They're using freaking all these heavy chemicals. And we've had people like Tyrone Hayes. Tyrone Hayes is this amazing scientist that worked for one of the chemical companies and found out that their chemical was turning frogs into hermaphrodites, basically turning male frogs into females, female frogs into males. And so he did all these tests. He's like, whoa, we can't use this chemical because it's
corrupting the chromosome.
Yeah, it's fucking up with the genes and the chromosomes of human beings. I mean, frogs have the same, their whole intestinal and everything is real similar to a human. So they do tests with frogs to like see how it works on humans.
Gotcha.
So basically that chemical is in the water of here, super in the water of the west side, like it's in the water table. And so that guy came here and did some speeches. Beautiful guy, just like amazing. He's been freaking threatened. His life's been threatened so much for going against the company that hired him. And they said, oh, thanks for that. We're not going to tell anybody that, but it's good that you find that out. And he's like, well, we're still going to use the chemical? And they're like, yeah, that's our freaking main money maker. And he's like, I'm out.
Crazy.
Yeah. So if you ever look up Tyrone Hayes, if you looked him up,
yeah,
you'd see like did all his research on atrazine, and he's a biologist and professor of integrative biology at the University of California, Berkeley.
Gotcha.
And so super well respected, super awesome guy. I've done like speeches with him before and stuff. And that chemical is in our water here. It's in our water table. So basically people are drinking that every single day of their life, and even if it's just a little bit, it builds up throughout time.
Yeah.
And now you have like the highest cancer clusters, the highest like birth defects, all in this community surrounded by these companies. And then the guy who's the lawyer for the companies ends up being the head of the hospital. So it's like this revolving door of corruption over there, like hiding all the information of like the health. And so I know nurses who've worked there and doctors who've worked there who left because of they've seen the gnarliest shit ever, and then watching them cover it up and lie about it.
Yeah. And yet, this is where you're raising your kids.
this is where we're raising kids, and that's why I got so involved, because I was a young dad. You know, my kids were freaking just starting to be born. I started like thinking about the future. You know, and for us, it's freaking all about the future. It's all about the kids. The kids are the future. You know, and like if they're unhealthy, the planet's unhealthy, our environment's unhealthy, there's no future.
Do you feel optimistic about them growing up on Kauai?
I feel optimistic about them growing up here, and I'd feel more optimistic about them growing up in America, but because it's like over there, it's just like it's crazy what's in the water there and stuff.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I recognize there's corruption everywhere, but on the mainland, it feels too giant, and there's so much gray area that I almost just turn a blind eye.
It's easier to.
Here, it's a lot more obvious.
Totally.
You know?
Totally.
It's a microcosm, and you can see if something's being poisoned, the direct effects of it.
Well, that's why we're working on the next generation to educate them, to get their spirit and mind and like everything lined up to understand that this is the direction to go.
Yeah.
You know? And so like with us, it took us this long to even realize anything's even going on.
Even open your eyes.
Yeah. So they already know what's wrong. And they know not to like support that. They know not to go into that. They know that this is the direction they want to go in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So for us, we're doing everything we can that they don't have to fight like we did. You know?
Good. Do you what is their educational opportunities and economic opportunities on Kauai?
Their educational opportunities, I mean, we have a college here, you know, we have a...
Are the schools good? Public schools?
I mean, it's a form of University of Hawaii. It's a branch, you know, it's a Kauai Community College, but they have good classes, and then you can just go to Oahu for the next to finish your degrees or whatever. So you can get a good education here in Hawaii. As far as like working, it's hard to like sustain yourself and not be involved in tourism. You know what I mean? For me, I have a niche. You can have like what I have at kickboxing school, and that's, you know what I mean? That's it. That's like my little niche. I don't have to I'm not a slave to tourism. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that gives me the ability to speak up about it, because, who would you be without tourism? I'd be the same person I am now.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's always like a big issue. It's like, you know, if you ever get in an argument with like a very fucking egotistical tourist about something, or an ignorant tourist who wants to argue about parking however they want it, or doing something stupid, and you're like, hey, fucking, what the fuck? And you see it all the time over here where they're like, are you dumb fucking tourists? You guys fucking have no respect. And they're like, you'd be nobody without us, you know? And I mean, hey, the tourist industry does pay a lot of people's bills and whatnot, but it just doesn't give people the doesn't give them that like entitlement to do whatever the fuck they want. You know? So for us, we're trying to create businesses that are more focused on community. Like, how can we support community? And like, you know, so getting more people farming, getting people eating local food, getting more, you know, just local owned businesses, pushing for local people to support, you know.
Good.
Tourism's always going to be part of this place.
Totally.
But when all decisions are made to make tourism happy and not the people paying the taxes here, that's when you got a problem.
Totally.
You know what I mean? And that's where we are on this island. We've gone so past any like respect for your taxpayer, your local taxpayer, who's actually like, the tourist industry isn't paying that much taxes when it comes down to it. The people pay for it, like the roads, the majority of things come from our working class people's money. It doesn't come from tourism. So the tourist industry is like the biggest business in Hawaii, and at the end of the day, the board of tourism and all that, they don't put that much, like they don't pay that much, like they don't pay for that much when it comes to like putting back into the island.
I mean, the infrastructure is built by the locals.
It's all built by the locals. the taxes are paid by the locals, even though the money coming in is a lot of tourist money.
Yeah.
That money filters back from the hotels into the tourist bureau and the tourist industry. But it's your hard-working people that are actually like paying for the roads, for the parking lots, for the, you know what I mean? So our island is slowly getting gentrified to like cater to comfort of tourism. And what the people come to this island for is for it not being like all the other islands. You know what I mean? So like Hanalei for like to make a point, like Hanalei, you'd always be able to park on the beach at the bay and surf, and grandparents could pull up, they couldn't walk that good, and watch their kids surf and fish right off the beach. And it was like the lifestyle of our town revolved around this parking lot, basically. And after the flood, they took away that parking lot. That's always been their agenda, but we always fought it. And they just took away that beach parking, made it into a tourist trap parking lot, where it's like Waikiki now. Within 8 months or whatever, they opened it and closed our beach parking. It has turned our community fucking backwards. And that's what they've been doing slowly all over the island, is turning every local like special place into its own little Waikiki, Hanama Bay, freaking Disneyland. And what they're doing is they're killing the reason people even come here. Like, right. A lot of people come here for that special.
Totally.
Yeah, there's those few people, oh, you couldn't find parking, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, but you come a little earlier, or you have a little bit of patience. What most people don't have is patience. You'll find a parking spot and you get to freaking hang out.
Yeah.
But what they've done is they use like false dangers, like those people driving on the beach are gonna hit somebody, or the kids walking, and nobody's ever been hit there. So then they create a parking lot where people are driving 40 miles per hour, and there's no local people like securing that parking lot anymore. Locals can't even find a parking spot there. You gotta park freaking a football field away to walk down to the beach, and it's totally put like a wrench in our lifestyle here in Honolulu.
Yeah.
And so that's just like one thing, and that they're doing it everywhere.
Right.
So they're killing that reason a lot of tourists come to our island, and that's what I was trying to do as a mayor, is keeping that local style in our island and using that to be the attraction for tourism. That education of culture, environmentalism, and people come here and they leave here a better person, instead of coming here and thinking they can do whatever they want because they paid to come here and they can have whatever they want. Yeah, you can do that at your hotel and whatever, but once you leave there and you go on your like sightseeing, everything, it becomes like an education. So you leave here more enlightened about how maybe you should live where you live or whatever, you know what I mean? And that was kind of like some of the goals I had when I tried to do the whole thing.
Yeah.
So we're trying to do that at like a community level now, and we're trying to create, and so to me that's the future of this place, and that's where we should be going.
Prior to your injury, what's your relationship like with surfing at this point?
My relationship with surfing is, I'm just a soul surfer who surfs when I can, and I can still surf as good as ever, but I just don't get to do it as much. I'm like super involved with teaching classes every day, and yeah, it's been like kind of my goal this year is to surf more, and I've just kind of been hurt a lot, and it's just kind of like took me away from that. But I kind of see myself, pushing more into surfing again. Good.
Do you miss it?
I do. I just, it's hard. I have 3 kids. I got my own business. It's just, it's hard to find, it's hard to buy time,
It's funny that exists as a professional surfer and no matter what level you're at, when you're 38, those are the things you struggle with.
Yeah.
You can't find time to surf.
Yeah.
And it's like the exact thing that you need to put all that other stuff in.
It's still the most like spiritually like enhancing thing for me. Like every time I surf, I'm freaking stoked and laughing and having fun. And
you're probably
I'm still getting barreled and fucking surfing good and whatnot, but it's just hard to get the time to like around here you gotta like drive around and check a bunch of spots, or if somebody doesn't call me and be like, hey, this place is going off, then I surf, because somebody like, the problem with me is like nobody tells me where the waves are, and I'm like teaching a class and then I got like 3 hours maybe before I gotta pick up the kids or teach another class, and if I know where the waves are, I'll go surf. But usually if fucking nobody calls me, I'm like, fuck, I end up like doing yard work or
totally
like, you know, like
real life stuff.
Yeah. So if I know the waves are good and somebody tells me, I surf.
Who are you getting boards from?
I get boards from this guy Will Scoville from here. He's freaking amazing.
Really?
Shaper. He's a friend I grew up surfing contests with, and I've been working with him for like 8 years or something, and like just feedback and everything has made his boards like world class, like super amazing surfboards.
Good. Like high performance thrusters, basically?
High performance, but what we've worked on a lot is he makes amazing thrusters, but we've taken those high performance boards and plus like a forefin setups, and we've like reinvented like placement of the fins and other things, like, you know, like when the stretch boards came out and everybody's like 4 fins, but when I'd ride them they'd be so like slippy off the bottom to where I bottom turn super hard. Like, you know, I'm a power surfer, I like to freaking go hard off the bottom and hard off the top, and every time I'd bottom turn on they'd kind of like skizzle like a twin fin, so you'd always have to be kind of like feather foot. And so what I did is we worked together and we brought the fins closer to like 4-inch space. And what that did is it made a 4-fin surf like a 3-fin, but still have that drive and speed of a 4-fin. So we've done things that like took surfboards like around here to another level. And then I've got him into Bonzers. Like I had a couple Bonzers like from Campbell Brothers, and I've taken him to those to him, and then he started doing Bonzers. He's making like amazing Bonzers, then doing like regular boards, like high performance short boards and stuff, but as Bonzers and stuff.
Interesting. Yeah,
so super fun and sick, like just going outside the box. Like he's always willing to go outside the box and like try stuff.
Cool.
Yeah.
In regard to fighting, when's your next fight? Do you have anything queued up?
Fuck, I wanted to fight this summer. I just fought in December 21st, and then I came out of that fight with like unscathed, so I could have just went right back in another fight, but I just, I took 2 months away from working, and I made good money in the fight, but I always have to like keep my business going, keep my community good, keep my family going. So I was hoping to fight twice this year, maybe this summer sometime, and then again next winter. So that's my goal right now.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Well, Dustin, thank you.
Thank
This
you.
is awesome.
It's been a pleasure.